Hey guys, my name's Moon and welcome back for more Witch on the Holy Night. So last episode, we finished up the battle between Aoko and Toko. And yeah, it is finally over. So I don't know what's gonna happen next. We're gonna have to find out. So let us continue and let's see. Okay, A Tale of a New Star, or A Tale of the Star, I mean. We're gonna start it. Six days passed, the weather in that time sunny and clear. A Tale of the Star. So yeah, this kind of feels like an epilogue now. Because the battle is over. Yeah, I wonder what will happen with Sojiro. Will he leave the mansion now? I mean, it's over. It first came to Sojiro's attention when he was resting with Alice after spending all day cleaning.
Sojiro, 今日ぐらいはバイト休みでしょ?
Aoko asked him in her usual manner immediately upon entering the drawing room. It was already nighttime, approaching 9 o'clock. The afternoon's sunny weather had changed abruptly and thick clouds were visible out the window. Awoken from his nonchalant daydreaming, Sojiro tilted his head to the side and replied calmly.
休みだけど、どうして?
これから実家に戻るから用意しておいて。
Wait, what? I'm making a trip home in a bit, so get your things ready. What? Sojiro's peaceful expression had grown tense the moment she appeared. Unsure of what any of this had to do with him, he stole a glance at Alice, who was seated across from him. However, she looked surprised as well, her eyes widening ever so slightly as she studied the other two.
用意って何の?
He replied timidly, struggling to hide his bitterness at Aoko for waiting until the cleaning was finished before deciding to show up.
用意は用意よ。1時間ぐらい歩く山の上だから、寒くない格好をしろって言ってるの。
Sojiro's expression only grew darker. The way she spoke made it sound like
しずきくんを連れて行くの。
Alice spoke up before Sojiro himself could manage to say anything. Aoko brusquely asked if there was a problem.
私だってあんなとこに行きたくないわよ。けど、今日ぐらいは顔を出せってうるさいから、本当に顔だけ見せに行くの。宗十郎を連れて行くのは単に暇だからだけど。
She stood tall as if challenging her roommate to oppose her decision. Alice's face was dour as she gazed back. Sojiro's irritation was obvious as well as he glared at Aoko. Of course, Dare's unspoken objection had no effect on Aoko in the slightest.
それじゃあ、班になったら出かけるからね。
Having said all she wanted, Aoko disappeared from the room once again. Alice and Sojiro could only sit in dumbfounded silence.
アリス、青崎の家って遠いのか?
He stared at the clock as he spoke. There were only 10 minutes to go until half past the hour.
場所的には三崎市の端よ。ここから電車で4駅分下った小さな山の中にあるわ。あなたの住んでいたところに比べれば丘でしょうけど。
Her expression had not changed, but her voice made it obvious she was in a poor mood. His complete obliviousness to this fact only showed how clueless he truly was.
そっか。今から行ったら帰ってくるのは明日になるね。
帰ってこられたらの話だけど。
Each spoke to themselves as if there were no one else in the room. Those about to embark on a journey always feel a sense of dread, and he was no exception.
青崎の家ってお化けでも出るのか？
Alice did not say anything in response. All she did was raise her eyes from her teacup to stare wordlessly at him.
アリス？
His question caused her to suddenly avert her eyes. Something seemed off about her today. The minute hand on the clock was about to reach 30. Bothered as he was by Alice's odd behavior, Sojourner had no choice but to stand up from the sofa and take his leave.
それじゃあ行ってくるよ。
Sojourner hurried through the drawing room. Alice kept staring at his back until he was gone. By the time he had changed in his room and returned to the foyer, Aoko was already waiting and ready to go. Furthermore, Alice was at her side and they were deep in conversation. She abruptly ended their chat as soon as he descended the stairs.
それじゃあ行きましょうか。アリス、留守番よろしくね。
Alright. She responded with a simple nod. There was a determination in Aoko's step as she strode to the door. Sojourner made to follow her as he donned his coat in the foyer.
ほら、ぐずぐずしない。
Her words made him pick up his pace, but he stopped suddenly as if he had remembered something. He looked back at Alice as if to say that he had left the heater on in his room or some other important matter.
それじゃあ行ってくる。できるだけ早めに帰ってくるから寝ないで待ってるんだぞ、アリス。
What? Alice blinked in shock at his unexpected request. Aoko looked on with arms folded as Sojourner stood waiting for a response. Bewildered, Alice finally returned to the drawing room without uttering a single word. I mean, she was blushing right there. Her only response had been the very smallest of nods. That was nice. They were headed for Aki Koshiro train station. The night had grown late. It was nearly 11 o'clock. The train full of tourists went in the opposite direction before the two finally arrived at the tiny station. The surrounding area was incredibly dark and quiet. In fact, it felt less like a station and more like a small boat dock. Sojourner had a hard time imagining that many people came here even during the day. It had only the absolute bare minimum necessary to greet the odd visitor. There were no convenience stores in sight, only fields and the street lights that dotted the road. Aoko placed her ticket in front of the attendant who was sat sleeping in his chair and schemed the train schedule. The last and only train back departed just after midnight. Having confirmed her options, she headed hastily out of the station. The elderly station attendant was all alone. He had dozed off with both the heater and the television still turned on. As he slept, his face looked completely content. The night felt vast in its darkness. The small train station had been rendered obsolete now that the cars were commonplace. It was like a lone star shining in the night sky. Sojourner thanked the attendant for his service before stepping out into the darkness. The man must have looked after his station for decades at this point and would likely continue until the day he died. Outside the station, there was a little in the way of human development. It could scarcely be called a village. There was not even an area out front for cars and buses to drop people off. Their eyes were met only with a panorama of flat fields interlaced with lattice of footprints. Or footpaths, I mean. Though surely a sea of beautiful green in summertime, in winter it was more like a wasteland. However, electric lights that felt strangely out of place illuminated one side of the dark vista. The cold only grew harsher as the night wore on. It relentlessly snatched all sensation from the fingertips. Aoko thus kept her hands in her pocket as she strode through the paths among the fields. She could feel the ground below her shoes. Its softness was unlike that of the city, and for her it brought back countless memories. She had walked this path every day in middle school after all.
あの山の真ん中あたり、家の明かりが見えるでしょ。あれがうち。
She pointed out a mountain that rose up before them with her finger. What is so far away? The journey looked like it would take about 40 minutes on foot. For now, they remained among the rice fields, though their journey would continue beyond them. Aoko followed the path bathed in light without looking back. The path seemed to hang before them like a pier leading out into the darkness of the ocean. The closer they got to the mountain, the darker it became. All signs of the hustle and bustle of human life were absent. The dark stillness made the moon overhead seem dazzling. Its light transformed the mountain path from blackness into mere shadow. Though dark, their surroundings were not totally indiscernible. The seemingly unending path stretched on and on. Sojiro, doing his best to match Aoko's pace, stole a momentary glance at the profile of her face. Did she not feel frightened in this quiet darkness, even with the moon to light the way? Her expression showed no outward signs of discomfort as she strode on in silence. In fact, this was how she always looked when she was trying to act tough. He had only had a month's experience with her, but that much he knew. There was obviously something on her mind she couldn't ignore, no matter how small it might be.
青崎でもこういうところは怖いのかい?
She responded to his tentative question.
こんな夜道を怖がらない人なんて普通いないでしょ。我慢できるか無視できるかの2つだけよ。そのどちらもできない人は夜に出歩かないわ。
なるほど。それじゃあどうして自分を連れてきたんだ？
言わなかった？こんな何もない道を一人で歩くのは時間の無駄でしょ。退屈しのぎに話し相手が欲しかったの。
そういえばそんなことを言ってたな。
I mean, she just wants company. Sojiro fell into the silence. He was not bothered by what she said, rather he was desperately searching for something to say in response. What is this music? Their path through the night continued onward. Only the sound of their footsteps could be heard. Eventually, Aoko was unable to endure the silence any longer, despite her best efforts.
Sojiro, 退屈しのぎに何か話してよ。
参ったな。話すようなことはないんだけど。
He felt clueless and ashamed. He had been searching unsuccessfully for a topic throughout their awkward silence. Shocked though she was, Aoko let out a gentle sigh. At least for a moment, his simple earnestness was enough to make her forget about all her troubles.
バカね。嘘でも何でもいいから、とにかく話をすればいいの。別に面白い話なんて期待してないから。
Her blunt retort was not entirely honest. She would surely scold him if he dared lie to her. Sojiro said as much, reminding her of how much she had claimed to hate lies. Naturally, she did not bother to respond to him.
仕方ない。話はないけど、聞きたいことならあった。何でもいいなら、それもいいだろ。
A slight scowl across her face at his suggestion, but it lasted only a moment before she returned to her previous calm state.
ま、それもいいか。 どうせもうすぐ忘れるんだから。
She muttered her reply without making eye contact. Their destination in the mountains remained hidden from them, revealing not even a hint of its form. It had bothered him ever since that night. What was the truth behind it all, and how would the two sisters' drama unfold? Sojiro ventured to press Aoko for details.
それで瞳子さんは何がしたかったんだ？
あれ、言わなかった？私への復讐と根源に接触することだって。根源の渦については前に少しだけ話したでしょ？
確か魔術の源だっけ？
そう。そして最終目的でもあるわ。根源の渦っていうのは全ての英知が記録された位置、全ての事柄が決定された場所。そこを見て触れて理解できれば不可能なんて言葉すら作り変えられる。伝承によって呼び名は様々だけど、要するに神様のいる位置なんでしょうね。
神様っていうのは八百万的なものじゃなく？
たまにそういうこと言い出すから厄介よね、あんたは。そりゃ万象に宿る神様もいるでしょうけど、これはその前、そういうのを決めた大前提みたいなものよ。そんなものの入り口がどうして岬にあったのかは知らないけど、祖父はそれを発見して新しい魔法を作り出した。でもその後に根源への道を閉ざしちゃったのよ。魔法さえ成立したのなら神様への道は消えるべきだって。多分私たちが生きてる限り解放する気はなくて、瞳子はそれが腹立たしかったんだと思う。たとえ力不足で取り込まれても道があるのなら試すべきだ。自己の消滅を恐れるぐらいならそもそも魔術なんて学ばなかったってね。でも祖父は礎になろうとする一切認めなかった。もっと強力な跡継ぎが生まれるまで根源の解析は許可しない。跡継ぎに魔法は譲るけれど根源への道だけは閉ざしていたのよ。瞳子の気持ちもわかるけど、私は祖父に賛成だわ。根源なんてものに興味はないし、第一今まで一人も生還者がいないんだもの。それが本当に神々の座なのか保証もないし。
Her mood had gradually soured as she spoke, and towards the end of it sounded more like a list of complaints. Despite her words, however, part of Aoko wasn't able to agree completely with her grandfather's decision. Sojiro took note and followed up with a question about something he found strange.
青崎、一人も生還者がいないってどういうことだ？
根源に触れて帰ってきた者は一人もいないの。世界規模でね。触れれば即消滅。人間程度の魂だと触れた瞬間に元に戻るとか、根源に取り込まれるとか。
Okay.
なんでどんなに歴史に名を残した魔術師でもあれにだけは触れていないわ。せいぜい間近にして大急ぎで自分の魔術を安定させた程度だもの。
Sojiro furrowed his brow at the oddness of it all.
それじゃあどうしてそこがそういう場所だってわかるんだ？
そりゃ中に入って伝えた人がいたからでしょ。
There is one person who went and made it back.
でも生還者はいないって。
Yeah.
だからそういう人たちは中で神様にでもなっちゃったんじゃない？
She spoke very matter-of-factly, as if it was only a minor detail about something that had happened the other day.
そうなればこっちに帰ってくる必要はないでしょうし、もしかすると単に帰ってこられないだけかもね。ま、神様って位置づけが私たちが思っているようなものとは思えないから あまり幸福そうには思えないけど。
Whether they succeed or fail in their endeavor, those who reach the root became unable to return to the normal world. Maybe the first person to become God felt lonely and spread the word about the swirl of the root in order to have others join them there. Or maybe they had so much work to do as God, they just needed some help. So none of it made any sense no matter how long Sojiro thought about it.
トウコさんはそうなりたかったのかな。
まさか、あの人は単に知りたかっただけよ。その後に残された人たちのことなんて興味はないの。昔から目標に没頭しても成果を愛する人じゃなかったから。正直なところ、そのあたり姉貴は突き抜けてるわ。本当の天才ってのはああいう非人間のこと言うのよ。苦労して作り上げたものの、その後を全く考えないんだから。
Sojiro wasn't sure whether she spoke out of disgust or respect.
でも、そのくせ面倒見はいいっていうか、未来のことは考えないのに、今あるものには何にでも興味を持つんだから。
Aoko praised her sister's genius even while cursing her every being. Though her tone of voice was perfectly pleasant and lacked any audible animosity.
そうだね。それにトウコさんはこっちの方が好きみたいだったから。
As soon as he spoke, he was struck by the meaning of Aoko's earlier words. I don't care about the root. He realized that she must feel the same way as Toko-san. And so, there was one thing that had been bothering Sojiro regarding Toko.
そういえばカエルにするって一体。
He ventured to bring up the topic no one had been talking about since it occurred. So he was very curious about that still. Maybe it's just something Aoko said, right? It had always seemed taboo to bring up, so the sense of transgression made him hesitate as he finally sought the truth.
一体も何も言葉通りの意味だけど、もともとルーン使いには変身術がある分、トウコにはかかりやすかったみたいよ。
Okay?
いや、そんな当然のように言われても。
His stomach hurt from the stress of not knowing how to respond to her cavalier attitude.
まあ、それでどうやって。
He did not particularly want to ask, but it was the natural extension of his current line of inquiry. Aoko stared straight ahead as she lectured him, completely ignoring the pained expression on his face.
2種類あって、精神を入れ替えるのか、肉体を再編成するかね。精神だけを入れ替えるのは簡単な分、すぐ元に戻れるわ。夢を見ているようなものだし、ちょっとしたショックで元の体に意識が戻ってくれるから。厄介なのは肉体そのものを変えてしまう方で、この場合、術が切れるまで元に戻るのは難しいでしょうね。私がやったのは、その再編成の方みたい。多分塩基配列を組み替えるんだろうけど、もうちんぷんかんぷん。魔術が科学的な説明するのもナンセンスだし。
Aoko spoke as if it were not her own actions she were discussing. Apparently she had only been borrowing magecraft from her future self and could not use any of it in the present. Her actions had also created a looming threat that would come back to haunt them in 10 years' time. Trying to comprehend even a fraction of all the intricacies involved made Sojiro's head hurt.
あと数年後には青崎はそんなこともできるのか。末恐ろしいな。
So I guess yeah, she can train. In the 10 years' time, she would probably be better now, right? Sojiro was being completely honest with her. In response, Aoko only stared ahead blankly, eyes open wide. She looked like she wanted to scold him.
アリスならそれぐらい今でもできるわよ。
なんだと。
やっぱりね、そんなことだと思ってたわ。前にも言ったでしょ、あんたはあの子を甘く見てるって。アリスの部屋のもろもろの人形はあの子に逆らった執事たちの慣れの果てなんだから。
What? Okay.
まさかアリスはそんなことしないぞ。
いやいや、これが私もね、付き合い始めた半年はそう思ってたんだけどね。
The light, cheerful laughter that followed only made her statement all the more chilling.
青崎、その冗談笑えないぞ。
あら、私は笑わせる気なんてこれっぽっちもないんだけど。
She was clearly making fun of him at this point, unable to determine how serious to take what she had said. Sojour's mood and expression only grew darker. His obvious dejection made Aoko smile with satisfaction.
あそこであんたの言葉にうなずいちゃうあの子がそこまで魔女になれるはずもないんだけど。
She gazed at him as they walked, her chest warm with emotion. The path they strode had shifted from footpaths through rice fields to a road climbing the mountain. It was surprisingly wide given the mountain's small size, though with no shortage of trees on either side. The forest road led them up to the top of the mountain. Wheel marks were etched into the dirt underfoot. No doubt Aozaki's family came through here by car. The only light at the summit was that of the moon and stars overhead. The bold mountaintop lacked streetlights and houses as well as vegetation. Near the top, the incline of their path began to even out. The road ended abruptly at a house still a good way before them. It was too far to make out the shape of the building, but Sojour assumed it was Aozaki's house based on the warm light coming from the windows.
ところで、君が家で団らんしている間、自分は何をしていればいいんだろう。
Yeah, is she gonna tell him to go inside as well, or what? He had a hard time imagining her engaging in any sort of family bonding time, but with effort he could imagine that it must be joyful time for her. He did not want to ruin that by intruding, which is why he brought up the subject now. If he had to, he would not have minded spending the night camping outside. Imagine that you bring Sojour and then you will let him just be outside in the winter. Her reply was not what he had expected.
君はうちの離れに行って祖父に会うの。多分、そこで今日までの記憶を消されるわ。
Dude, hell no, do not do that. She stopped dead in her tracks as she spoke. The frank and open attitude she had shown all night was now gone.
Eh?
Dude, if they do this, if they make Sojour forget his memories, I will be really angry. I don't want that. He turned back to look at her, having been walking a little ways ahead, and realized she was not joking. That after all the things that happened to them, you want Sojour to forget his memories? Come on. He stood still, taking in the glaring silence. Naturally, Aoko was the first to resume speaking.
驚かないのね、あなた。
いや、驚いたけど。でも、それは初めから決まっていたことだ。そうか。
退屈しのぎは本当よ。それとは別に、祖父があなたを連れてこいって言ったの。
Sojour nodded in acceptance. He was as quiet and unchanging as the night around him, something which Aoko found thoroughly irritating.
それじゃあ行こうか。立っていると寒い。
宗十郎。
Aoko's voice stopped him in his tracks. just as he was about to resume walking towards her house.
あなたはそれでいいの？記憶を消されるってことは今までの1ヶ月がなくなるのと同じなのよ。
Dude, come on, please don't do that. Sojiro murmured in understanding. The thought of returning to his old self and forgetting about Aoko, Alice, and the mansion altogether felt like giving up a treasure that he had discovered. I mean, yes, the memories alone is amazing, right? I wouldn't want to forget that, but he didn't feel that he was unable to let them go either.
確かにそれは嫌だな。青崎と知り合ってからの1ヶ月は楽しかったし、アリスとも約束したばっかりだし。でも青崎が消えるわけじゃないんだろう。冬休みが終わればまた学校で会えるじゃないか。
But I think that's different though, yeah. There was no answer from Aoko. She did not tell him that he was not the only one who would be losing their memory. Intervention by her grandfather would erase her own memories of Sojiro too. Once it was done, they would most likely never even speak with one another again. Each would just become another random student at school. Even if they did happen to meet by some lucky circumstance, things would not be the same as they were now. Yes. She could not deny that small part of her was going to miss him.
そう。なら行きましょう。
She rationalized her feelings away instead of processing them and set off once more towards the house. Sojiro followed along at her side. It was a matter of several minutes before they reached their destination. She was irritated to see that the expression on his face looked exactly the same as it always did. Forgetting their time together was sad for her, if only slightly. But it did not seem to bother him in the least.
そりゃね、平気で自分の腕を叩き折れるやつにそんな繊細なこと期待していないけど。
Halfway through muttering her complaint, Aoko suddenly remembered. Or rather, she realized something. Something about that one-time werewolf killer before her, and the mystery of who Sojiro Shizuki really was. The older version of herself that night had memories and knowledge of Sojiro beyond what she knew now. Something about this seemingly average boy's mistakes, why he was able to do what he did, and why he was raised in the mountains in the first place. She had always wondered but never had a chance to ask him about it until now. Once her grandfather was through with them, all these questions she had about Sojiro would be gone too. There was no point in asking right now before they had their memories erased, but then again, she might as well if she was going to forget everything anyway. This was her only chance to demand an explanation for his contradictory behavior.
待って。私も最後に一つ聞きたいことがある。あんた、山でどんな生活を送ってたの？
Her questions stopped him on the spot. She had never seen him make such a pained expression.
つまらないよ、そんな話は。
面白い話は期待してないって言ったでしょ。どうせ私も宗十郎のことは忘れるんだから、それぐらい話してくれてもいいんじゃない？
Her words and demanding gaze caused him to lift his head in surprise.
忘れるって青崎が？
当然よ。あんたが忘れても私が覚えているんじゃ意味がないでしょ。お互いが忘れなくちゃ人と人の関係は立てないわ。行ってこいで公平じゃない。なんでそんな顔するの？
Soldier's hand shot up to cover his mouth in response. He had no idea what kind of a look he had been giving her, but he had a feeling it had been pretty pathetic.
そうか。青崎も忘れるのか。そこまでは考えていなかった。
ええ。そして私はあなたとは会わなくなる。断定はできないけど、まず間違いなくね。
Thus, this would be their last conversation. The way she spoke made it obvious even if he had not been aware of what awaited him inside. Sojiro might see her walk by at school and feel a desire to talk, but they would have no response to interact. Even if he tried to strike up a conversation, he knew she was not the type to bother much with other people. More importantly, he was not the type to strike up a conversation in the first place. Not the way he had been a month ago, at least. That was when he finally realized how cruel it can be to forget something. Not only would he forget what they had done together, he would not so much as know her name or even be aware that she existed. Even if he felt strangely drawn to her, he would never understand why. And despite the fact that if some lucky twist of fate brought them together, things would never be the same. Are they actually gonna do this now? No, I mean, really remove both their memories? Like in the ending of the game, this is... oh my god, why? Why? Their walk that night was no less than a funeral for both of them. I mean, they did say this in the beginning though, right? That, the memories might be removed for at least Sojiro. They did say this when Sojiro started living with them. But, yeah, I did not expect them to actually do this now. Their walk that night was no less than a funeral for the both of them. He would essentially kill the person he knew as Aozaki. And she would kill the person she knew as Sojiro Shizuki. Afterward, nothing would remain.
だからその前に聞いておきたいの。嫌だって言うなら、あとはこのまま家まで直行するだけだけど。
それは寂しいな。くだらない話だけど、会話がないよりはマシだろ。
Muttering under his breath, Sojiro set off towards the house once again. This time, it was Aoko who matched his pace. There were only minutes left before their path came to an end. The cold air turned their breath into white puffs that hung frozen in the dark night. Come on. Looking back on their conversation later, Aoko would think it seemed more of a confession than anything else. For Sojiro, however, it was like a one long, poorly told fairy tale.
山での暮らしは別にどうということはない。毎日同じことを繰り返して、毎日同じことを教えられた。そこでは明日はないんだ。始まりが朝で夜になれば終わる。一日は次の日にはつながらない。だから次の日を楽しみにするなんて言葉はこっちに来てから知った感覚だったな。初めは馴染めなかったし、馴染む気もなかった。けどみんながまた明日と満足そうに口にする。いつの間にかそういうものを夢見るようになっている自分がいた。
Sojiro kept walking as he spoke. He stared straight ahead as if telling his story to the night itself, not once turning to face Aoko. For her part, Aoko was utterly silent. She knew it was pointless to so much as nod or ask a question.
目が覚めていつもの一日に戻って、ふと気がつくと昨日までいた誰かがいない。
Okay, let's take a break here. Short episode today. We'll do this next time. But come on, man. Seriously? Like, we're gonna remove their memories, both of them? Like, I cannot. Like, if the ending for this is both of them, like even Alice as well, right? Because yeah, pretty much everything. It's just gonna be gone. All of that memories, it's just gone. We'll find out. We'll find out if this goes through. We'll see. So anyways, we are gonna continue this and do more of Witch on the Holy Night in the next one. So I'll just see you then, guys. Bye bye.